Hello everyone, this video is going to be a little bit different. This video is going to be a quick tutorial for music teachers on how to differentiate for different musical instruments. Today will be specifically about keyboard, but still the principles that we go through in this video can be applied to any musical instrument whatsoever. So firstly, let's talk about differentiation and what it is. Well, differentiation is super important in ensuring each student is sufficiently supported or challenged. Being sufficiently supported means that you're not bored in class, and being sufficiently supported means that you're not overwhelmed, and thus you will be in a great headspace to be motivated and believe you can achieve. This is what we want to establish for each student in our class. The following examples are from a class I taught in which students were learning to play the Hall of the Mountain King. The focus was for students to be able to put bass clef and treble clef together, and to also be introduced to flat notes. Well, what I did was I created 4 different arrangements with 4 varying layers of difficulty. Let's start with level 1. Level 1 is just the melody. Notes are provided in case a student is challenged in being able to read the treble clef, and perhaps their ability to remember notes on the stave is low. Thus, they are supported here. I would expect all students in my class to be able to achieve this and move on to level 2. So this can be viewed as more of scaffolding, ensuring that weaker students take the time to be able to play the melody in one hand before being overwhelmed with adding 2 hands in the next level. For students who are still challenged at this level, I also tape a support card to each of my keyboards such as this. This allows students to find the notes independently and thus remain engaged. Now, level 2 is the goal of the lesson today. I here have added the bass clef, but only one note, which is C. This works harmonically because the first 3 bars of the piece use A minor and the last bar uses C. Rhythmically, both lines are exactly the same, as moving both hands at different times on the keyboard would be too much of a challenge for the average student in my class. It might be different for your classes, but remember, when you're planning different levels, know your students, plan for their ability. Level 3 is slightly harder now. As you can see, the bass line is now playing the root of each chord. This would be a good challenge for students who have more experience in playing keyboards, as now both hands are starting to develop independence from one another. Now lastly is level 4. Now level 4, the left hand is now playing a full triad chord in supporting the right hand. This would be for much more experienced players that understand what triad chords are and have experience playing them on the keyboard previously. Now, level 5 and beyond. Now, of course, we could differentiate forever, creating progressively harder pieces until we have arrangements that only prodigies would be capable of playing. However, ensure that you know your students. I only created to level 4 in this piece because I know my strongest student in my class would be sufficiently challenged at level 4. However, if you happen to suddenly find out that a bunch of your students were more capable than you expected, here are some additional options you can do to further challenge on the spot. Firstly, playing in octaves. Challenging students to play different parts in octaves is great. 1, because it's easy for students to comprehend what an octave is, it's easy for you to model, and in addition it sounds great. Students like the sounds of octaves, they're inspired because it looks good as they play it, and thus this would continue their motivation and engagement. The next one would be playing from memory. Again, a great challenge. Easy to comprehend, easy to model, and encourages the students to practice the piece more and more, and thus it raises the quality of their performance skills. The next one would be playing with eyes shut. Now, students generally think this is a fun little challenge. When I modeled this, I often ask the students, "Oh, do you think I can play this piece with my eyes closed?" And often when I end up modeling how to play a piece with my eyes closed, I end up making mistakes myself. So it can be a little fun, it can be a bit of a laugh, but playing with your eyes shut, it can also train the students' ears as well. listening for the different intervals, listening for any mistakes, and being able to identify the mistakes just by their ear alone. Thus, this makes it a great option to differentiate the keyboard skills. And last one would be arpeggios. Now, this would be something for a student who is much more capable in their keyboard skills. Most students that are just learning to play the keyboard in music class would be very overwhelmed with this. But again, it's just a simple thing that a student can add to their performance. It increases the level of challenge and engage those higher learners. This is not an exhaustive list, of course, but this is just an idea that you can do in your keyboard studies in your music classroom. Another note to remember on this is when creating different arrangements to differentiate a piece of music, try to ensure that each arrangement still fits together musically. This means when students perform the piece with each other, the outcome is still very musical. This is what we should aim for as music teachers, great musical outcomes. This is what children are inspired by. If children are practicing a piece and it sounds trash, well, that's not going to be very motivating for them. They might even blame themselves for why it doesn't sound great. Just ensure what you are giving the students sounds musical. So the key principle of this video is to ensure that when you are teaching instrumental skills, you know the instrument and you know different ways you can increase the difficulty of the instrument and thus further challenge those more able students. And just as importantly, find ways to lower the difficulty of what you're trying to achieve. Find ways of making the music simpler so that the less able students can access it just as well and still have great musical outcomes. Thank you for listening to Mr. Luke's Music Room, and I hope you have a great day.